Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary.
And I'm Eric.
Are you excited to finish our cliffhanger?
Yeah.
You sound it.
Sorry, I'm not giving you anything. These improv classes are not teaching me enough.
You're 2 for 2 on the mentioning of the improv classes.
The previous on X-Men is that we talked about the first 3 episodes of the Phoenix Saga, which each had their own little title, like The Sacrifice and Enter the Banshee or Cry of the Banshee or stuff like that. So we're talking today about Phoenix Saga Part 4, Starjammers, and Phoenix Saga Part 5, Child of Light.
Hey, Eric, do you think in Part 4, Starjammers, do you think we'll meet the Starjammers?
I hope so. Otherwise, that'd be real false advertising. If for some reason you're listening to this episode without the one where we talked about parts 1, 2, and 3, here's some catch up. These 2 episodes would have aired September 8th and 9th of 1994, which was the same week that the other 3 episodes aired. So it was a 5-night event in 1994.
Woohoo!
Part 1 and Part 3 of the one we just talked about was written by Michael Edens, but Part 4 and 5 are written by Mark Edward Edens. And again, you have Eric Lewald editing and Larry Houston directing.
Yeah,
he's on it. For this Phoenix Saga, he's on it. He's not playing around.
He's getting all of it in there.
I really do like thinking that he's like at this, like in between seasons 2 and 3, he's like, what is this Gundam show? What is this show Dragon Ball? And he's incorporating that stuff.
Use some of that, please.
Yep.
At the end of the previous episode, Lilandra has arrived on Earth. She stole the M'Kraan crystal. She's keeping it away from her brother Decan.
Mm-hmm. Decan. How do I say it? Hold on. Now you've got me all messed up. Hello, I'm Decan. I say Decan.
Yeah, it's Decan. You're right. Okay, so
that's how he would introduce himself.
Jeez. Hi, I'm Decan.
Decan, everybody.
Decan. So anyway, Lilandra is keeping the crystal from her brother, who's gone mad with power, and he's on his way to Earth to steal it from her. So Lilandra and Gladiator, who I keep calling Guardian in all of my notes, but it's Gladiator. Right? It is Gladiator.
Oh, I had me muted. Sorry. Yes, Gladiator of the Imperial Guard.
Podcast.
I'm sorry. I muted it because I was moving stuff around and typing.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay, so Lilandra. I was going to say Guardian again. The X-Men.
Gladiator.
Or like, you know, it's
your second favorite Russell Crowe film.
Oh, my word. After what? Les Mis? Is that what you're going to say?
Oh, God, I couldn't even guess. Master and Commander, Far Side of the World.
I don't like him. Anyway, darn it, you keep throwing me off. Like, I know,
we just watched it. When last we left the X-Men, Decan had just showed up through the worm. He just showed up. We were worried about him. And Phoenix had just thrown Gladiator into space. Gladiator had just thrown Juggernaut into the ocean. Most of the X-Men are there. So we find them all on this porch, this balcony of Cassidy Keep. And the first episode, Part 4, opens with Black Tom running away.
And that's just the end of
him. From last episode. He's like, I got to go.
With his $1 million?
So he's just, running.
Does he have it, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Does he still have his money? I don't remember seeing it, but maybe. Yeah. So I would imagine he made sure he had that money.
Happy ending, Black Tom.
So you're worried that Decan and his Imperial Guard are landing in their ship, but Xavier says it's friends, and it's the X-Men in their jet. And Phoenix is like, don't worry, we're getting out of Dodge, and she teleports all the X-Men except for Jubilee, Storm, and Professor Xavier. And Xavier's all like, you mustn't leave me behind. Yeah, I don't understand the Storm leaving her behind thing. Because
they want Storm in space, I guess. Maybe, you know what? Maybe
Storm
they just don't want to have to try to figure out how weather powers work in space.
Yes.
Maybe they were just
I don't know if the show always knows how weather powers work, but yeah, she stays. I get leaving Jubilee behind. Sure, do that.
Yeah.
But
leave Jubilee. Xavier, seems like he could be helpful, but whatever.
Yeah, Jean uses her immense psychic Phoenix powers to teleport them all, and in the process, Captain Britain, Doctor Strange, and the Hellfire Club are made aware of her existence.
Yeah, I wonder why those people.
It's Larry Houston's the one who liked to throw in cameos.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, there's a bunch. There's more later too. So I guess you get the chance, you take it.
Captain Britain's a pretty heavy like Claremont character, and Excalibur and stuff. And that if Houston's a comic fan, which he is, like that's a fun little X title related character to throw in that probably would never ever get into the show.
Well, I like it because
Doctor Strange.
they're in Scotland. Ireland?
Yeah. So he's nearby. Yeah, it's
so like
it's
he
expanding
actually
out.
sees them taking off.
Yeah.
Emma and Doctor Strange just sense it from a distance.
Yeah. Well, Emma's bad news that she senses it because that's gonna mean she's aware when Jean comes back.
Uh-oh.
So, anyways, they go to Lilandra's ship, and Lilandra has the M'Kron crystal, and she's like, "Oh, thank goodness."
Yep. It's just
thank
there.
goodness. And Gambit, who has no imagination, is like, "How do you fit a whole galaxy inside of there?"
I know, because Jean had been talking about, like, we have to save the M'Kron crystal or, like, the galaxy will be destroyed or whatever. And that's what Gambit takes away from it, that it must be inside of it.
How you fit a whole galaxy, he says in his Cajun accent.
The trip to Lilandra's ship has been just too much for Jean. She's used up her power. She has to collapse for a few minutes.
Gosh,
every time she uses it, she gets stronger.
If only that were true when it came to Jean Grey and her powers at all. I can't remember when I wrote it down, but it's dumb to me that even in Phoenix form, she gets tired when using her powers. It's still happening.
She's not even using them for cool things. She just keeps transporting people from ship to ship.
It's
collapsing.
Look, I guess I was just saying this to myself in my head while watching it, but I am so tired of female superheroes with invisible mind powers getting nosebleeds and passing out. I've been exhausted by it for years.
Our delicate bodies just can't control the powers.
Sorry.
I mean, I think this every time this kind of thing happens, but this time I sort of tried to think about it from like the other side, like trying to think of a male character.
Gambit could blow up a building and he would just run away.
Come into power. Yeah, somebody who's like suddenly, like Spider-Man, for instance, who suddenly has way more power, and how could there's never anything that's like, well, can his body handle it?
Yeah.
Never. Name a time.
Right now I can't. I can think of characters that it would make sense for, but anyway, it's like this crap with the invisible. I'm just if I see another nosebleed, I'm going to lose my effing mind.
Yeah, I hate it.
Anyway, yes, that's what she's doing. Lilandra says something about we must leave because a ship is coming, but Lilandra's voice is coming out of Jean. Jean says it, and it's Lilandra's voice.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
You know what? There are a couple of weird things like that because another time later on, when they are somewhere and then they go somewhere else, Cyclops says, "No, you'll be stuck in here," but he means you'll be stuck in there because they're not there anymore.
Right.
So, like, there's a couple of weird voice issues in this episode.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the ship that comes is not...
It's not. It's the Starjammers.
It's not the Emperor.
It's the Starjammers.
Starjammers.
Yay.
They have this special... They knock everybody out on the ship. And then they come to board.
Hilary, how do you feel about the Starjammers in general?
Most of what I've seen of them has been in comics.
Yeah,
where
that makes sense.
Like Cyclops is, I mean, like I don't think about them from the show.
Yeah,
Cyclops goes like on adventures with them and stuff. So like, I mostly just think of them as kind of fun, spacey kind of people. I don't super care about the Corsair Scott dynamic, I guess. But they're fine, you know.
I tend not to care a lot. Like I said, I had a soft spot for Gladiator and the Imperial Guard and stuff, but something about the Starjammers have never entirely clicked with me. Maybe it's because they're like just a whole bunch of weirdo aliens or something. Like I'm okay with the Corsair Cyclops thing, but it's also kind of dumb because for series purposes, both in the comics and in the show, when he finds out that Cyclops is his son, you think he would instantly move to Earth forever.
Yeah.
Once he realizes his 2 sons are still alive. Nope, he's just, I've been in space too long, son. I have nothing to offer you.
Can't go back.
So, I don't know. There's something too Bucky O'Hare about the Starjammers for me.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, it was still nice to see them. Chad calls the X-Men ugly. They're like, look, it's aliens. Ugly aliens. But he's the one that looks weird to the X-Men.
What? That's crazy.
You know, if we just took time and
right around.
really thought about these things.
Just think about yourselves as people, you know? We're all just people.
Big fight between big fight. There's a fight between the Starjammers and the X-Men.
Yeah, because like does the Landrin know who they are?
Boy, I don't remember it. I just watched it.
I don't remember because Deken does, but I don't remember if she does. But they get the idea that they're coming to take the crystal.
Yep, and they are.
They are.
They want the crystal, but they also take Cyclops once they realize what he is. Jean stops Cyclops from blasting Corsair, and when Wolverine's like, "Why'd you stop him from doing that?" Jean's like, "I can't tell you," and then off to the side, she's like, "That he's Cyclops' father."
Now, were I her, I probably would have just like blasted a little thing to Scott, been like, "He's your dad."
Yep.
But
yeah, that's what I would have done as well.
Wasn't time.
But I'm not Jean nor the Phoenix. But yeah, they take Cyclops. Corsair's plan is that he wants to offer the crystal to Deken, and when Deken is there in eyeshot for Cyclops, he wants Cyclops to blast him at full power.
Yeah, so I guess just like on site, he walked onto Lilandra's ship and was like, "That guy, I'm gonna take that guy. I'm gonna take the crystal. I'm gonna make this plan. It's gonna happen."
Yep. We see Deken with the Imperial Guard at his palace or his palace ship or whatever, and Deken makes that deal. He's like, "All right, you bring me the crystal and that X-Men, and you get half the treasury," is what Corsair demands.
Yeah, he asked for half of the Imperial treasury.
Yeah, everything Corsair says, Gladiator's about to like vomit. He's having such a hard time dealing with them. And Deken swears on the sacred oaths of his people, of the Shi'ar and the gods or whatever. And as soon as he hangs up, he's like, "Once that M'Kraan crystal is in my hand, destroy the Starjammers." And poor, dumb himbo Gladiator is appalled. He's like, "But you swore!"
He just has more honor than he knows what to do with.
It's just coming out his ears, all that honor. And
Too much honor.
But it's funny, he's verbally conflicted, but nothing's stopping him from just using his full power to punch people.
Well, yeah, I guess I work for the throne.
Yep.
What are you going to do? Then Cyclops wakes up imprisoned on Corsair's ship. Corsair, who has just coincidentally chosen his long-lost son.
Yep, he tells him the whole plan about using your full power and everything. He tells him why and how Deken killed his wife and ruined his world and everything. And Cyclops is like, "Is one life really worth risking the entire galaxy for?" And off to the side, Corsair's just like, "Once it was. To me."
Oh, before she died.
Poor Corsair.
And also, that's still not cool.
Hey,
you know, like sweet or whatever, but like, you know,
Corsair
shouldn't be a hard question to answer is all I'm saying. One person for like the whole galaxy.
Corsair is voiced by Brian Taylor, who does a pretty good job, I think, of being both kind of that rapscallion space pirate, but also he's got that deep onion layer of past pain.
Yes.
I mean, it's not a lot.
Kind of an understated style. Like, you would expect it to be kind of like bravado and, I'm a space pirate. But he's pretty laid back.
Yeah, I feel like he delivers his lines well. So I like him as Corsair. I like Corsair. Now that I'm talking about him, I like Corsair. I just think it's dumb.
Talk yourself into it.
It's just dumb that he doesn't instantly get an apartment near the mansion and be like, "Scott, we're going fishing." I've got a lot of time to make up for. Yeah.
Make a plan, you know?
Every other weekend, every space Christmas, we're going to come down here. Every life day, as they would talk about on Enduring.
The calendar is all I'm saying.
Yep. All right, so the Starjammers show up at Deken's ship. The Starjammer ship is a bit obscene.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know if we were going to say that, but yeah.
I don't think I've ever picked up on that before, but this time I'm watching, I'm like, good lord.
Holy cow. It's phallic is what we're saying.
Thank you. I can never say that without accidentally saying the phalanx, and I always get those two confused. So whenever I'm talking about, look out, it's the phalanx with the X-Men.
Geekiest thing I've ever heard.
Yep. The phalanx took over the X-Men today. That was a scary storyline. Nobody knew what to do with the phalanx.
Oh my word. But anyway, Jean travels the X-Men over to Deken's ship to rescue Scott?
Yes, but we get a little moment again where Corsair is walking Cyclops through the little air tunnel to get to the ship, and he's talking about, like, I'm from Earth, and Cyclops is shocked. He's like, how can that be possible? And I just want to be like, well, he looks human.
He looks very human.
But then Corsair says, I wasn't always a space pirate. I had a family. He's talking about his boys and everything. And he's like, I wouldn't recognize them if I knew them, except for my oldest boy. He had his mother's eyes. And he can't see that because of the visor. If he took the visor off, he would see. But if he took the visor off, he'd kill him. Cyclops. So tragic.
Oh, the tragedy of Cyclops. Never ending.
There is the My Little Pony, the movie, which came out in 1986. Yeah. Did you ever see this? Danny DeVito was in it? Oh my gosh.
Like the original My Little Ponies?
Yeah. The animated
movie?
Yeah, a little animated movie. Anyways, I watched it a bunch as a kid.
Are you a brony?
No, this was 1986. That term didn't exist.
All right, carry on.
No, there was a thing about crystals or something. It was like crystallizing people.
Oh, that actually does sound familiar, but
yeah. Anyway, that's it. It just reminds me of I'm just thinking about that. Is this the right one? Is this the movie?
Wait, what are you talking about? What reminds you of that? Are you talking because of the M'Kron crystal?
Yeah, and I just kept thinking about that movie while watching this because the crystal is such an important part, and I just kept thinking about how the crystals were such an important part in the My Little Pony movie. That's really it. It's just that the two, but they just talk about the M'Kron crystal so much. I'm just like, yeah, and like in the My Little Pony movie where they also had to deal with the crystal.
Just like the My Little Pony.
If I'm remembering the right movie.
Who wouldn't go immediately to that?
All right, yeah, Jean, you say she's there. She's there to rescue Scott. But really, she's there for the M'Kron crystal. Scott's kind of like, he's a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the emotional motivation.
Because
yeah, she's doing the protecting the crystal
the
thing.
The show's doing the thing where the Phoenix Force is a separate entity. Yes. It's not necessarily that Jean has now come up with all this power. So it is like, because the Phoenix will talk about like this body and Jean and everything.
Yeah.
Like, so
she says we at one point.
Yeah. So it's very much a Phoenix is its own thing here.
Yeah.
Which, and okay, I get it because it's a human body absorbing the Phoenix power. So that's probably a lot for the body. But she does promise that with each time she uses her power, she gets stronger, and it never happens.
You never see it.
It never happens.
Never see it. It's always the exact same thing. She transports someone from one place to another, and it's too much for her, and it's just the same thing.
I mean, when Deken gets a hold of the crystal, Jean is like being held by Cyclops, who's like, Jean, you're so weak with the infinite power of the Phoenix Force. You're so weak, Jean. You're still so weak.
The thing that the Phoenix Force is here for.
We left Storm behind, but you, Jean, you're so weak.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, they're running because Deken is going crazy because he picked up the power and he's turning kind of crystally. And Beast,
he does some sort of incantation, right, to release the power, but he's gonna combine with the crystal or something.
Yeah, he's going into the crystal, which is bad news. You don't want Deken inside that crystal.
But it's happening.
The X-Men are running away.
To do something.
Yeah, she says something like feel the power of the Phoenix or something, and then just knocked back. And we're like, okay, so what exactly is the power of the Phoenix? It's the teleporting power. As the X-Men are running away, the door is shutting, and Beast grabs it, and he's like, I've got it. And then Wolverine shows up, he's like, I'll help you. And Beast is like, not enough. And then Rogue's just like, I got it. And she just lifts the door up, and with no problem.
Always fun.
And I'm like, well, Rogue's not tired. It's because Rogue gets a punchy power. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I am much more tired if I have to lift a piano than I am if I have to sit down and do my taxes. You know what I mean?
The emotional energy that it takes, Eric.
Oh,
it's like spending time with frustrating people.
Okay, that makes
sense. How you feel after that?
Sure. Okay, Jean just can't. Right.
She just can't anymore.
I'm faint. I'm faint from canting. Anyway, the X-Men get away, and Dukan is just laughing because he's living his best life now that he's got the Mcron crystal. Q, to be continued.
To be continued.
It feels like not a lot happens in this, even though there's a fight between the X-Men and there's a lot of moving people around. There's fights between both the X-Men and the Starjammers, and then the X-Men, Starjammers, and the Imperial Guard. Yeah. And then there's the whole Dukan thing.
There's a lot of time spent on fights.
Yeah.
But the plot doesn't move a whole lot.
I guess that's it. Like, I take less notes when there's fighting.
Yeah.
Because it's just, But
I usually just write, they fight.
Yeah, there's just not, I mean, it's all good. While watching it, I was realizing, like, how bananas it is that the show is doing this, because there is a lot happening. Like, in these 5 episodes, we are all over the place. We're in space, in a space shuttle, dealing with Eric the Red. In the second episode, we're in New York in a hospital dealing with Psychic Xavier. And then we got Juggernaut and Black Tom in the Keep, and then the Phoenix, and then we're in space with the Imperial, and then we're in the Crystal. So, like, there is a lot happening. But because the back half is very fight heavy, especially part 5, it almost feels like not a lot happens.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It does feel that way.
As good as the show is at doing action, sometimes better than others, it's still not like it's not a show that's just blowing your mind action-wise. You know, this isn't like Spike fighting Vicious in that church. You're not watching like every fist fly because it's just this awesomely choreographed thing. It's a Saturday morning cartoon with like PG action in space. So it just feels like, yes, you have to fill up a lot of time with the fighting and action and stuff, but especially when it's not as character driven. Like when it's Wolverine fighting Sabretooth, there's more history and character. When Magneto went back in the fight in that chemical plant in Deadly Reunions against Magneto, there's not like a ton of like punches being thrown, but it all felt very intense because it was all character driven. And here it's just kind of like big and bombastic, but my brain detaches a bit.
You've got so many characters and so many groups of characters, and they're all fighting for the same. Like fighting for you know what I mean? Like it's chaotic, and they do a good job of choreographing it and making it like it doesn't seem unclear.
Right.
But it's like they have to spend more time than you particularly want to watch the fight for the fight to not be confusing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the DC animated stuff like Batman, and then Superman and Batman Beyond, and like all that stuff, they just like picked the action in those shows was great because they just had the budget to just focus on making it look as cool as it could and making every character stand out. And this one, sometimes it's just like this character tackles this person and that then gets kicked off in the other thing and then repeat, but with 2 different characters.
Yeah.
And so it's with the story this big where you need all those battles, it's just a little less exciting than like when the Justice League fought Darkseid and Brainiac in that 2-parter, because it's just there's a budget. I assume it's budget reasons and also censor reasons. I mean, Wolverine can't use his claws, so
they're limited with like the moves they can use.
But anyways, that was part 4.
That was part 4.
Yeah. How are you feeling going into part 5? Are you excited?
I mean, listen, I was thinking while we were talking about this just now, and I feel like we talked about there being kind of filler with the evil Xavier thing, and like it feels like almost like filler with the multiple battles in part 4. And I feel like there does seem to be that kind of thing, but also if you shortened this to fewer than 5 episodes, it
Yeah.
would probably be too tight.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's the Xavier Dark Side thing where he was torturing the X-Men, kind of. That was really only like the first half of a whole
Yeah.
episode, and then like they move on and go somewhere else to have conversation. I feel like if you took that out, you get this weird pacing where you're like half an episode behind or something. Yeah, I feel like the Dark Phoenix Saga gets 4 episodes, but there's a lot more. You just have to introduce so many
Right. Yeah. Dark
people and
Phoenix,
forces.
we already know
Yeah,
from the Phoenix Saga a whole bunch of stuff.
right. And again, that's still 4 episodes. Maybe watching it, we did this in 2 parts. Maybe watching all 5 episodes, it balances out a little better.
Yeah.
Or
Maybe.
or maybe watching 1 episode at a time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all right. What?
You're psyched to get into the finale?
I guess no, because I remembered not loving the Inside the Crystal stuff when I had first watched it, and then the couple of rewatches. So like this time, I'm like, okay, here's maybe my least favorite episode of this 5-parter.
That's okay.
I am not a lover of the X-Men in space stories.
Mm-hmm.
I like.
What about individual X-Men in space with other people?
Oh boy, even less so.
We're talking Cyclops with Corsair. We're talking about Kitty Pryde with what's his face?
Yeah, what's his face? Yeah, I mean that stuff is.
Star-Lord.
And it's fine because when the X-Men go into like Claremont, when he was writing it, like they just went for it. Like the Imperial Guard, the Starjammers, Decan, Deathbird. Deathbird? Yeah, that is her name. That sounds so silly, right?
Did you notice? This is random, but did you notice that one of the Imperial Guard people looks like Destiny?
Yep. Yeah, that's something that is an Imperial Guard. That's not like they threw in a homage to Destiny. That was just a design.
Okay.
It's
weird.
it's very strange. Actually, that design would have come first because Cockrum would have drawn it, and then Byrne would have done Destiny. Interesting.
Huh. Interesting.
I'm just never a super. I just feel like it takes. There's nothing that the X-Men are about is in space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and
they have a more like grounded.
Yeah.
Feel.
And also, it also makes the whole bigotry against mutants feel sillier when there are just a bunch of planets and space aliens out there. It seems like we should just not care anymore, or it shouldn't be a thing, or all right, let's all mutants just go live in space, or let's have all the aliens come live. There's just this like element that goes a bit too far to keep the concept of the X-Men as viable. And it's even worse when you think about the X-Men in context of like the Marvel universe in general. But even if you're just doing only the X-Men like this cartoon does or the movies do, once you start introducing aliens, I'm just like, I don't know. It's still we can have time travel, we can have killer robots, but once there are aliens, the world is almost too big.
It opens up the scope in a way that doesn't really lend itself to their theme.
And so I'm actually one of those people that most fans online would hate, because I don't mind when the Phoenix stuff isn't necessarily a space entity. And other things, I like in Ultimate X-Men, when they were like, the Juggernaut's a mutant. I'm like, that cleans it up a bit. But at the same time, I do love the fact that the show just embraces everything. Juggernaut's powers are magical. There's alien space things. This is a Savage Land. Like, all that stuff. The show, I guess because the show goes 100%, I have a hard time faulting it for any of that. So
yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I do know some people who like watched this like for the first time when it came to Disney Plus, and especially during the lockdown phase of the pandemic.
Oh wow.
So I do like to think of just like how much is just being thrown at them nonstop. Like if they're watching, multiple episodes every night, then it's a crazy universe that you're being thrown into. So when they get to the Phoenix Saga, I imagine it's just even more so. So anyway, I talked a lot there. Storm is left behind. She has to help control the elements because the Mcron crystal is messing with everything.
Yeah, it's basically become like a black hole. Like it's sucking the light from the which I thought was a fun little bit of science
Yeah.
because we cut back to Earth and Jubilee sees that the sun is starting to darken.
Mm-hmm.
And Xavier explains that it's because the black hole that the Mcron crystal has become is sucking in the light of the sun, and soon it'll start sucking in the sun itself. So it's like
Yep.
stopping us from seeing the light of the sun before it even takes in the material of the sun, which I thought was fun.
Yeah.
But then it's also like screwing with gravity and all this stuff because it's sucking in everything around it, and that's like making
Not
all
doing
kinds
it.
of natural disasters all over the planet.
Yeah, it's not doing. It's weird how much it's affecting everything, but also not sucking in reality like it's supposed to as fast.
Yeah.
Though maybe
Yeah.
there's a time dilation thing inside the crystal and yada yada.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because like the crystal sucks in what's his face?
Deken.
Gosh, Deken. It brings him inside. And then the Phoenix transports everybody off the ship so they can fly away. But then the ship that the Mcron crystal was on gets like sucked in, but like crushed
Mm-hmm.
as it's getting like pulled in. But then when other things get pulled in, they don't get crushed. You know what I mean? Like they just like go inside the crystal in some sort of magical way rather than getting, collapsed.
Yeah. I guess that's just the plan. He's just gonna. He seems like it's the universe is his to destroy. So I guess I don't get his ultimate plan. He just
Yeah,
wants
I think-
power, even if that just means everything is gone, and then he lives in the crystal with everything.
Yeah, I think so. But I think I guess I would imagine that he goes inside the crystal so that he has ultimate power inside the crystal. If he brings everything from outside the crystal into the crystal, then it'll be as if he was all powerful in the regular universe,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all just inside the crystal.
Yeah, that's it. As Gambit realizes that his ship is about to be crushed and brought into the Mcron crystal, he tells Rogue that they're going out together, and he's about to kiss her. Sorry,
Almost.
Hilary, it was almost a kiss,
Not quite.
and then they get sucked into the crystal. Deken is definitely he saw what Apocalypse was doing, and he's like, I love it.
I'm there.
He just
Stand
goes for it. He's just everything he says and how he says it is just like, yeah, this is what Apocalypse would do if he had the Mcron crystal.
Yep. But he would deliver the lines better, I think.
I could not find the voice actor. It's like it doesn't exist online for Deken.
Oh, weird.
I like his
Yeah, I don't
voice,
think I have it.
but yes, the Apocalypse voice actor is just like he's just so good at delivering that stuff. Like, Deken kind of just starts giving into just pure laughter, and Apocalypse would just
Yeah.
be taunting. He's like, I now have the power of a sun.
It is funny how long they spent because like once they're inside the crystal, we have several extended sequences of the various people trying to stop Deken
And
who's
not-
demonstrating that he is all powerful in this realm.
Right, and
they
Deken's
just
not
kind of
doing a
keep
lot.
doing it.
Yeah.
He's just like fine.
Yeah.
And then like Rogue attacks him, and then she like gets thrown back, and then she's
Yeah.
like, well, maybe if I throw something at him.
A lot of
that
times
doesn't
it's
work.
just like, look at me teleport over here. Now I'm over here. Look behind you.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
kind of, this is again why it's my least favorite, because there is just a lot of like quiet fighting with characters who have no names and or voice actors. And
Yeah.
then also the X-Men are here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I guess it's just sort of, I mean, like when you do something that you're intending to be this grand epic thing, you're always sort of risking that happening, like
Yeah.
things just being too big, and so it's not really grounded and you don't really attach anything to it.
I don't know. Yes, but I think again it just comes down to like the animation budget, and also like the action can't get too intense. Like Deken can't really do terrible things to the heroes, and the heroes can't
Yeah.
really go out. It's just you're just kind of sitting around waiting for Phoenix to do whatever she's going to do, and whenever
Yeah.
she's going to
Yeah.
do it.
Well, because when they first get there, her outfit is like burned or something on the
Yeah.
ground, and so he's like, "She's dead, haha!" And so you
Mhm.
can have like the Phoenix rising from the dead kind of a vibe.
Cut
Because
to
after they all fight for no reason,
Mhm.
Phoenix comes back.
We cut to Earth and see that Earth is going crazy. Sunfire's there fighting a volcano to protect a train.
Yep, we go all over the globe with these guys.
Boy, the fast kid from that Storm episode is there.
Yep.
Helping people know which direction to run.
Yeah, I know,
he's not being fast. We see Spider-Man's hand use his web shooter to save somebody, because they can't use Spider-Man.
Yeah. And then there's some Oh, is it War Machine?
Yeah, it's War Machine.
Okay.
And also we see some members of Alpha Flight. I only noticed Shaman and Snowbird. I couldn't tell if there others were there quickly. But...
Yeah, I don't think there was a whole bunch of them. But
Storm using her powers and not getting tired from them.
Yeah, as one might do.
One
more powerful.
Does Storm I can't think of a time where Storm's used her powers. She's like, too much power.
Not that specifically. I mean, usually it has something to do with her claustrophobia when she ends up kind of wilting.
And anyway, cut to Jean using her Phoenix finally showing up and teleporting. It's just so very like... Well, we did this. This is a thing that we did. We all teleported in the crystal, and then we teleported out, and nothing happened much between the two of those things.
Yeah, there's not really any point except that you get to see sort of what the threat is.
Yeah.
Like he's got this power and that everything's getting sucked in. But what drives me the craziest about this, Eric, is that she's already exhausted, Phoenix, and then she's in there and she's like, I don't even know if I have the power to stop him, but I have to try.
Yeah.
So first, she teleports them out of the crystal to another ship, which was the thing that had exhausted her the most all along.
Yes.
So she does that first, and then she goes back, and she's going to figure out how to defeat D'Ken.
Again, it's been a long time since I've sat down and read the original Phoenix Saga, so maybe this is happening in the comics all the time, but I don't have a bunch of memories of being like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I was walking too fast.
Yeah.
My heart, my palpitations.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just you can't picture a live woman being able to do these things. But she decides that the thing she has to do the thing she has to do is she has to like combine with the core.
She has to crystal. And put it into the sun basically to keep it from ever being absorbed. Because even if you put it in the sun, it's people could still get it, and the Emcron crystal wouldn't be destroyed. She needs to go away for a while. And she kisses Scott, and then she kisses Scott, and he's like, "Farewell, my love," and he's all sad because he knows she has to do it, but he's sad because he loves her. And it's actually like the parting shot as it like zooms away from him. It's pretty sad. Like he just looks so just like, ugh. And again, poor Scott, but at least he's the lead in this love story, unlike the movies. So like he actually gets to be the one who's sad that Jean's doing everything because he loves her and they were almost married and everything. So it is nice after, watching the live action films to see Cyclops
be like the primary.
Yeah, firmly implanted in the Phoenix Saga where he's supposed to be. Like Jean and him's relationship plays into decisions and stuff, and her powers being a whole lot. So it's sad. It's when she's trying to psych herself up, I guess, to use her Phoenix powers on the crystals. She's thinking about all the X-Men, like your courage and Wolverine and your innocence. And she's going through, and at the end, she's like, in your love, and she sees Cyclops. But Rogue and Gambit didn't get a thing. It wasn't like your lust for life.
Yeah.
Your roguish,
That moment was a lot for me. Like, I was just sort of like, oh wow, we're really this is hokey to level 11.
Somebody's never had friends, I guess.
Me?
Yeah. You've never had to like, I don't know, do a chore or like do something you didn't want to do at work, and you summoned all the positive emotions of your friends.
You know what? When you put it that way, absolutely I have.
You've never sat there and been like, thought of Kendra and her innocence, and Nick and his cynicism, and Eric and his depression. You know what? I understand now why you didn't use your friends' attributes.
My friends are useless.
Use your dislike of people! Okay. Yeah, just borrow them from your friend Kendra, my wife Kendra.
Yeah, Kendra is the only friend I have that I think has like some nice positive energy.
No, Nick has them too. I don't want him listening who's like, what are you talking about? I'm great with people when I need to turn on the charm. I can organize anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Anyway, she does that. She's there. And then all the X-Men are back at Cassidy Keep, which thanks Jean for or maybe it was the ship. They're dropped off.
Yeah, I think she put him on.
Oh, right.
Lilandra's ship, and then Lilandra brought.
Right, because Xavier is still there, so they need a ride home.
Lilandra, right?
Yeah, and
okay, it's like become a non-word.
Lilandra. Poor Professor. It's that constant royalty versus love. What do you do? Responsibilities versus love. He's like
an empress now.
He asked her to stay, and she says she can't. She needs to be with her people now that she's the new empress and everything. And she's asked him to come. He's like, no, until mutants and humans are living peacefully, I can't. Poor Professor.
It's kind of a funny comparison because,
yeah.
Like, can you say, no, I'm ruling the galaxy?
Yeah.
No, my pet project isn't quite finished yet, so I guess I better.
Human. Oh boy, I can't say it. Humanitarian. Am I saying humanitarian? Thank you. Oh my gosh.
We shouldn't be doing this in the evening, is what I'm discovering.
I've already recorded a podcast today too.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't throw this in, but Gladiator during the last 2 episodes gets a little bit more repentant. He's like, "What? Oh no!" He's mad. Nothing can stop it. And he says at one point to Lilandra, when it looks like the universe is going to be destroyed, he says, "I'm sorry that my service to you has to be under such circumstances." So
yeah, for real.
Again,
and if you'd only prevented this, Gladiator, but whatever.
Beast quotes a little poem or a saying, and he probably says who it's by. I can't remember, but he said hell.
He did?
Yeah, he says something about like
I acknowledge that.
It's the most will know of heaven and the most will know of hell or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I heard them, like, they said hell?
I feel like he misquoted that because it didn't make sense to me.
Oh, well.
I've heard that before, and I was like, I don't know if it doesn't matter.
Jean kissed Logan goodbye, too, when she was going into the crystal. She said goodbye to Scott, and then she kissed Logan on the cheek.
Aw.
And Logan is...
oh my word.
What?
When they're on the... So Jean does her sacrifice, whatever. Back on...
Or whatever.
At the castle. Well, because I fully don't really understand what it is that she's doing. But they're all, like, sad and, like, we're going to miss Jean. And Wolverine has a picture of Jean and Scott.
Yeah.
And he's, like, behind Scott, who's, like, looking off into the sunset. And he says... Jean in this way that sounds like he's mocking how Scott says
Jean.
It's just so pitiful.
Yeah.
I like fully thought that was what he was doing for a second, and then I was like, oh no, he's just sad about Jean.
Yep, poor Logan. He also has to go. So Scott is just trying to be by himself. He just lost his wife to be, the love of his life, the only reason he gets up in the morning, and Xavier comes over and is like, are you aware of the legend of the Phoenix? And
talk about it.
Oh man, Cyclops' response is so petulant. She's like, I'm not really interested in legends right now, Professor. And yet, without missing a beat, without pausing, like he didn't even hear Scott, Xavier just goes, they say the legend. He just goes into the legend. And yeah, everybody knows that legend, Professor.
I know. That's what I thought, too. I was like, are you going to tell, like, the story? Or just no Rise from Ashes? That's the thing that people know about Phoenixes, but okay.
Anyway, he tells him that thing and leaves, and then Scott's just sad.
He wants him to be hopeful. Like, he's telling him because he's like, don't let go of hope.
Maybe tell him in a couple of days. Maybe a week. Let him mourn.
Now's the time.
Also,
it ends on sad Scott crying into the sunset.
Yeah, a sunset
And that's the end of the Phoenix Saga.
a sunset he can only see in red. How
No.
cursed his life!
Oh, the tragedy that is Scott.
If only my father was here, but he's dead.
My father's dead, and I'll never see him again.
Yeah, that was the parts 4 and 5, the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, so we've done the whole shebang.
Yep.
We didn't do it as intensely as the original airing. We had some space in between the episodes.
Yeah, which may or may not have been at the detriment of these last two because they get less character and dialogue driven and just kind of become space action.
Space action, lasers,
which is fine. And again, it's a pretty accurate telling of the X-Men comics with the Phoenix Saga. So I think for me, again, I just like these space stuff just doesn't click with me. I try to appreciate it a bit more when just thinking about how much the cartoon just did and being impressed with that. But that last episode just kind of does nothing for me.
Yeah.
That part 5.
I can see that.
And I mean, they have to do it, but like that's just the part of the story where my brain kind of switches off and I'm like, yeah, it's a gross like 70s sci-fi wasteland inside the crystal. Cool. And it's the same thing with the Dark Phoenix Saga. When we get to the Dark Phoenix Saga, everything on Earth, like the Hellfire Club and Mastermind, and even the Proteus stuff that happens before that, I'm all in. As soon as the Shi'ar show up and like we have to have a space battle on the blue side of the moon, I'm just like, I don't know. Do we?
Yeah. Listen, I feel like maybe I'm with you on that because I remember when I was first watching the show and getting into X-Men and stuff that the Shi'ar really pushed my buttons. Like I was just like, I don't care about the Shi'ar. Get out of my face. So maybe it was maybe it was like the same kind of thing where it's like space and like things that aren't part of their normal storyline. Just like get away. I don't care.
I think in general the Shi'ar are just kind of dull anyway. Like they're meant to be kind of like the Roman, the Roman Republic and all that stuff, or the Roman Empire, but like
I like the Shi'ar to exist because when there are other Marvel space things, I like when like the Shi'ar are like an element of the conflict that they all have to deal with, and like that kind of thing is interesting to me. But yeah, like bringing them, I mean, like they're an X-Men thing, but like that being,
I usually find Lilandra's character is just based on she has to be responsible to the Empire and she loves Charles. Like that's it.
That is it.
And
that is largely it.
And then like the Imperial Guard are designs with powers, and Gladiator's really the only one with like a cool, like a personality, but even he's just kind of like the strong man who's loyal. So like it's always just a bit, it's weird how much bigger the scope gets because of these space stories, but also how kind of dull I find the Shi'ar to be. So
yeah,
like
I think it's because it ends up being big outside of the X-Men rather than like making the X-Men be a big thing. It's like they're just sort of incidentally a part of it because Jean's involved.
Yeah.
Like it's not really like their story. Like A Days of Future Past is a huge epic thing that's just integral to the X-Men, and the X-Men are integral to it.
Right.
So that's a lot more engaging. But something like this is just like space, and they're here too.
And you know what it is too? It's because like I've read the comics and I've been reading the comics for at this point like 2 decades.
Old.
Yeah, I know. But there is like, this is the problem with the infinite runtime of comic books, is that there are things that happen in superhero comics that have a very infinite lifespan, but because of how comics work, they constantly have to just keep using them. And so like maybe if all we ever saw of the Shi'ar and the Imperial Guard and whatnot was the Phoenix Saga and was the Dark Phoenix Saga, and then Lilandra on Earth sometimes with Charles, and that maybe gets resolved, like that's fine. But because they're just constantly having to go back to them in the comics, I have just like, that bird is cooked. It's done. It's just so dry. I just don't care like today about the Shi'ar.
Yeah.
So I think about that a lot, like with Spider-Man villains who like they have like an interesting character thing, and then they've been around for 30 years, and now they're just people with suits, and it's just you by just keep constantly going and going, you just run out of this stuff, and so I think the space stuff, like it was designed to fit within the story. The Shi'ar was designed to be what it needs to be to deal with the Phoenix and then also the Dark Phoenix. And it just wasn't designed to be a super interesting place you'd want to visit.
Yeah. You're
So,
right.
I don't know. But I guess it was also cool to see Jean in the green costume with her hair down and everything, because she's only ever in the that weird techno Jim Lee costume that I never fully understand what it is. It always looks like she's wearing like body armor.
Yeah, I do like the green, and I mean it looks good with her hair, honestly.
Yeah,
so.
That Phoenix costume is so classic. I just love it so much. It's just so, it just is 100% on point, and then it gets to be red later on, which is even cooler.
That is cool. That is very cool.
So, Hilary, after this episode, we talked about this last episode, the viewing order is bananas based off of if you have the DVD or you're watching on Disney Plus. Neither of them are right.
Don't trust the DVD. Don't trust Disney Plus.
I think
don't trust Disney in general.
I think the DVDs were done in airing order. I think, but like the Disney Plus order is just random for the sake of being random. I don't understand it.
That's so strong. It's funny because I feel like before they were streaming at all, it was an accepted and known thing that they were aired in the wrong order.
Yeah, there were like a couple of episodes that were out of order, but only like 2 that you could be like, wait a second.
So like what you're doing when you're just like arranging things for streaming, it seems like you would be like, so let's do it in the right order.
Yeah, it's bizarre. There are a couple episodes that come next that should have come out in 1994, but instead they came out in 96, like 2 years later.
Every time I think about this, like the order situation, I'm like, so, like things from the end of the season might be in the middle of the season, but like seasons apart is crazy to me.
Yeah. But anyway, the next episodes, if you're going in the right order, is supposed to be No Mutant is an Island and Obsession. So
yes.
those
we
were
are going in the right order.
Yeah. Yeah, again, No Mutant is an Island is supposed to be episode 34. It is episode 66 of the DVD.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wild.
Obsession is supposed to be 35, and it was only 36, so not bad there.
But still not right.
Yeah. So No Mutant is an Island, where Scott goes to his old orphanage, and it's a dumb episode. But
that, even just that, because I've been wondering aloud to everyone how it would impact my experience seeing them actually in the order they're supposed to be. And just that, the fact that you have the episode where he meets his father, followed by an episode about his upbringing in the orphanage, that has a whole different impact.
Yeah. But also,
like shoving that some random place.
No Mutant is Island is him leaving and upset because of Jean and the Phoenix.
And they just moved that?
Yeah, they mention it and everything. And
networks are insane.
So, in Obsession, we'll have Apocalypse and Archangel return.
All right.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
So that'll be what we do next time we've got the animated series on here.
Yeah.
Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, This Endorian Life, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.
Bye.